Why am I moving things? That was not supposed to happen. Whoopsie. Let's put that back where it goes there. Oh my goodness, what an interesting time that was. Hello everybody. Hi. Welcome to another live taping of Podcast Pontifications. My name is Evo Terra. Thanks for joining me on this lovely Tuesday morning. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today's topic of conversation will be making your podcast more than just an interview. Now, if you are brand new to this is not the podcast itself. This is the live taping of the podcast. What you are hearing right now, only you and I are hearing, and anybody else watching on the stream. Nobody else is going to hear this thing unless, of course, they go back up to the beginning of the live stream itself. But the podcast content itself will start in about 3 minutes. If you want to skip and you don't feel like waiting for me to get to the friggin' point, you don't have to. You can go to podcastpontifications.com and at 10 o'clock today. At 10 o'clock today, so that's in less than 3 hours, just slightly less. The audio will be done. I will have a rewritten article where I take all the words that come out of my mouth and rearrange them on paper for you so they're nice and easy to read. All that will be done today by 10 o'clock. Now, one thing I do have to make a quick note of, normally at the same time the episode goes live, the transcript is ready. That won't happen today. It will happen eventually, but the transcript's not going to go live with the show. Allie Press, my lovely PA, who does the transcription work, she does the cleanup of it. She is also an actor and has a call today, so we're letting her do her thing. So if you have been relying on the transcripts, the actual real live transcript, that'll be slightly delayed until Allie gets all that done. But we wish her the best, break legs, all the things we tell actors to do, because you can't say good luck, because that's bad, right? I think that's bad. I'm losing all the rules. Anyhow, let's open up the chat window. Again, none of this stuff that you're hearing is ever going to be seen by the light of day. There's the chat window, now it's open. So if you said hello to me before I didn't have the chat window on, I don't think it actually went, but now it should. So you can now say hello once again. I'm sorry I didn't have that set up properly to begin with, but I did not. Okay, let's make sure things are working okay. Check the stream again. I did not. Yep. All right. Seems like it's working fine. We're all good over there. Right. So, again, hi. Welcome. Good morning. Just getting myself all set up to do this episode. And for the rest of the day, I need to pull down, let's see, over here, move this around, get that where I kind of sort of want, oh, didn't want that. See, I should do the resize your windows before you move your windows to the side, Evo. Everyone knows that. Why don't you know that? You should know that. You're right. I should, but I didn't. Now I do. I got it. All right. So there's this big old thing over here. Good afternoon, Lee. You say afternoon. Well, wherever you are, it's afternoon. 7 o'clock in the morning for me, my friend. That was a chat. You can chat to me, and I'll reply. Okay, there's that. I was going up here to go get QuickTime because I use QuickTime to do my recording of things. New audio recording. That goes down here on the bottom, so I can hit start on both of those things. Right. Wonderful. Lovely. I think I'm golden. You ready for this? First thing I do is I read the cold open. Most interviewing podcasters know how to trim the fat. It's a much smaller set who can identify only the best. Let's not talk that fast this morning, Evo. Most interviewing podcasters know how to trim the fat. It's a much smaller set who can identify only the best bits while still keeping the guest at the center of the show. Done right, it can set your show apart. I'm going to change show to episode. Let's do that. A little long, but I'm going to take it. All right. Let's do this. Recording audio. Recording video. Most interviewing podcasters know how to trim the fat. It's a much smaller set who can identify only the best bits while still keeping the guest at the center of the episode. Done right, it can set your show apart. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Let's say you're interested in voting rights and access, and your favorite political/social commentary podcast has Willie Nelson on as their guest. How long are you going to keep listening to the episode if the first question they ask Willie was, so how'd you get started in the music business? Yeah, probably not very long. But at the same time, most podcasters find it very hard to edit down their guests when they're on an interview. This conversation was great. I think my audience is going to love it. That's a very common refrain that I hear from people. And I understand it. I mean, they listen to some very popular podcasts who seem to be linear in nature. Start to finish, put the podcast episode out with the full interview, all done, right? Yeah, they can do that. But it's really hard for you to compete against already popular podcasts. Now, lots of podcasters approach interviews from a let's trim the fat direction. They're actively looking for the bad parts. The ums and the ahs, which, by the way, can now be automatically deleted with very cool tools. Long pauses, stumbled, repeat questions. And yes, sometimes long-winded answers or boring parts of the conversation. And those are relatively straightforward to do. And great now, you've done that. You've gotten rid of all of the bad parts. But what about all of the not really necessary or not germane to the topic of this episode parts? Let alone the parts that aren't bad but aren't good. Now, I want to make an analogy between how you trim the fat off of a steak versus an entire cow, but it got kind of wonky and weird, so I'm just ignoring that, and I'm going to say this is going to be an uncharacteristic how-to episode of Podcast Pontifications for people who want to try something different with their interviews. It's an advanced technique. Now, I actually do this. As you know, I don't have guests on Podcast Pontifications, but I do more than just Podcast Pontifications. So the things I'm talking about are things I actually do put in practice all the time. Here's a step-by-step guide for you. Number one, first thing to do out of the gate is research. Hard research. I dedicate at least an hour of pure research on a guest. That's just looking at their background, reading any notable works that they might have done, or the back of books, or various things, just to understand who this person is. Then I carve out another couple of hours at a minimum, to listen / watch / read prior interviews that guest has given. That's all my background researchy stuff. Then the second thing I do, is write out questions. But write out questions that match the angle of the episode, the reason you're having this person on in the first place. Write questions with those angles. And as a second part, try to get your guest to tell stories about them. Once they've given you the answer, say, can you tell me a story about when that actually happened? And if you can, identify stories they haven't already told. If you know they've told the story before, then build on that. Say, I know this story happened, but what happened after? Ask those sorts of questions. Number 3, take the entire interview, however long it is, and shove it into Descript or some other sort of transcriptioning service. That's going to take a little bit of time for it to crank out there, but I promise you it's good. No, don't edit it first. Put the entire interview into that service and get out the transcript. And then step 4, go through that written out transcription, looking not for bad parts, because you can't see a bad part in the text. You're only looking for the best parts. The parts, again, that actually align to the topic, yes. But also look for instances where your guest said, wow, that's an interesting question, or I've never been asked that before. Those are probably gold, because they probably haven't. You take them at their word. Now, assuming those responses they gave to the questions all align to the topic at hand, then definitely use them. Now, there's a lot more in this step than just simply finding compelling stories and looking for complementary pieces. Yes, but I can't really make blanket statements about that work for everybody. But I can promise you that if you stick with that, compelling stories that line up with the topic, you will learn as you go a better way to pull out just the best parts of the interview. And number 5, assemble the meal, because that's really what this is. It's a meal. You already have all the good parts nicely portioned out in front of you. Now you assemble them on paper, by the way, in a linear fashion. You're going to take this question and this response and put it first, but this one here belongs at the end. And oh wait, I need some connective bits in the middle to bridge this gap. Great. Go ahead and write those out. Yes, with your fingers, type in there exactly what you are going to say to build that gap, because that's what you're going to do. It's going to be you voicing those parts, those connective tissues that bridge the gap. Once you have that all done on paper, read it several times, reorganize as you want, and then when you're happy with the way that the whole thing flows from start to finish, then you do the work. Then you do the work in the audio where you're actually creating something on point, filled with stories from that guest that align to the topic of your show. That is an interesting interview that people want to come back for. And here's the best part. None of the other stuff that you've done that you're not using has to go to waste. I get it. There are many people out there who really enjoy long-form, quite rambly interviews. So what I suggest you do is that after the episode has aired, release the unedited interview as a bonus episode or just an additional episode of the feed for people who wish to listen to that. Those that don't will just simply delete it. You can also release the video version as a full interview, or you can even let people watch it as you live stream the interview with the guest. There are lots of ways to do it. But if you really want to make your podcast episode more than just an interview, then only bring the choice bits from the interview with you. Now, if you got any value out of this, I know I don't normally get to the how-to-y stuff, but I've had a few of the people in my advancing podcast community ask for more. How do I get better at a thing? And I think I want to try and help them get better at a thing, so this is one of that. This is one of those. So if you got value from this and you like the concept and the idea, let me know. One of the best ways to let me know is by going to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra, where you can tell me, hey, I loved it when you do that. This is the value you bring to me, so I'm giving you some value. That's a great way for you to do that. I appreciate it. But that's it. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast Pontifications. Cheers. Stopped recording video. Stopped recording audio. Checking out the chat. Boom. Tommy Schaefer says, this is already brilliant. Evoterra, this was my first visit to one of your live sessions. I can definitely say already that it won't be the last. Why, thank you, Tommy. I appreciate the kind words you had to say for me. For anybody else who is brand new to the thing and you're just joining, well, you missed it. So you could go back up 13 minutes and watch the entire live stream if that's what you want to do. Or you can get just the choice bits. Just the part right before I started talking about this, where I just do the interview. All that's available at podcastpontifications.com, or it will be available at podcastpontifications.com in 2 hours and 46 minutes, because that's how long it takes me to get the audio edited down, which doesn't take me very long at all. But what really takes me the lengthy time is to rewrite every word that just came and tumbled out of my face. I will then reassemble all that into a nice little article for you to read, if that's how you prefer to get my content. But you get both of them. They're all over there. In fact, if you go to Podcast Pontifications in your inbox, which is just go to Podcast Pontifications and click the subscribe button, that will take you down to a box where you can give me your email address. And at 10 o'clock, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday the show is live, you will get an email that contains a link to the audio file for you to listen to right there in your email client, or the full article. You can just read it right there. You don't have to do anything. So a lot of people subscribe to the show, to PPIYI, and then also listen when they can, and some watch live, like Lee and Tommy are watching live right now. I appreciate all of that. I appreciate you. Hello to those of you who are headed to Nashville. Be safe at Podcast Movement. I plan on checking in to see how things are going at Podcast Movement 21. And if all things go as we hope they will go, I will see you next year. Definitely a Podcast Movement Evolutions and as many of the other ones as I can get to. That's the plan for 2022. But the plan for now is to get this damn episode out and for me to stop talking. So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow. Bye.